June 18th in 2020. I'll confirm the meeting public notice to all the towns involved and Carl Schell, CKSD, response from most. Approval of the agenda. A motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor of approval of the agenda as presented, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Approval of the draft May 7, 2020 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Proud. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the draft May 7, 2020 meeting minutes. As presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public participation on the agenda items. Bill?
Mr. Chairman, may I speak, please?
Yes.
I'd like to speak on item 6, the third bullet point down. I've got some information to hand out to everyone on the board. So, with that, so I'll pass it out to the bill and I'll explain. A couple months back, asked for an open record request pertaining to the item 6 on your agenda, and I was sent a letter by the attorney saying that Mr. Steve Proud, one of two things: he does not have it, or he will not give it up. And whichever case it may be, it's against state statute. I think you guys spent the last 2 months sending rules to the state statute saying that you will hold your information, all public record information, for 7 years, and once before you dispose of it, you give it to the Historical Society. That's state law. Every township, every municipality in the state does this. For whatever reason, the past Lake District Board did not want to follow the rules. So, with that, unless Mr. Proud wants to explain that he does have it.
We can't have any discussion on this.
Oh, okay. I would like then the board maybe to follow up on that. With that saying though, I did take the time for you for number 6, unless you want me to wait for number 6.
Yes. If you would, please.
Okay. The only other thing I'd like to say, this on a public record, if Mr. Steve Proud does not have this information and he's already disposed of it, and he knows he broke the state's law, I'd ask Steve Proud to resign, because he's not doing anybody in this Lake District any favor by disposing of all public records from the past. Thank you.
Are there any other public participation for agenda items? Any other public participation for agenda items?
Sure.
So yes.
I didn't think it yet, or do I wait till I come up on number 10?
Yeah, at that time.
At that time,
Yes, thank you. Treasurer's report. Mark is, let's call it a family leave this evening. And I will try, if I can find them, to at least touch the high spots on the treasurer's report. At the same time, I'm going to do bills and invoices, and we'll take the other 2 bullet points as they come. In the dam fund, the CD1, we're going to call it, for $236,712.88. That matures on the 19th of, I'm guessing, 21.
It says 21 on
That's what it says
it?
on ours.
Yep.
Yeah, mine's cut off. Another CD number 2 for $208,657.69. Matures 7/9 of 20. Dam fund money market, $206,829.09. That's available. The dam fund total is $706,199.66. Lake improvement money market, $107,092.74. with a 4/30/2020 balance of $128,841.77. There are some bills. I want to come back and touch on this CD number 2. But some bills, Mr. Botham for the dam maintenance, both April and May, $1,200 apiece. Bear insurance for $3,495, and somewhere in there is a rebate. Rob Montgomery for $2,681.25. Alliant, $20.99. Alliant, the second Alliant bill is $48.95. USGS deposit, $69.33. And what, for my information, Carrie, what does that say, 1019 through
320.
320? Okay. Mead and Hunt for $14,236.07. Alliant 1, I would guess this would be probably the May bill, $19.05. And Alliant again for $38.55. Deposit of taxes of $168.50, $41,000 in revenue to come. Deposit on insurance rebate for $579. So the adjusted balance at 4/30/20 with $99,716.41. And also a bill for Thompson Legal for $472.50. Anderson Appraisal, this is the appraisal of the land at Bingham Road, $1,150. An anticipated balance after the bills are $98,093.91. Before I ask for an approval of the current financial report and the bills paid, I see we have a CD matures on the 9th of September. I'm anticipating the July meeting at the 17th. So unless we want to take some action, I think that's going to sit there for, 2 weeks.
That's for July? The way I read it?
July, yeah, it matures on July 9th.
July 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your choice.
Well, Mark must have some input as what he's doing with it, right? We should probably...
I would, yes, and one of the options maybe is to authorize Mark to roll at that maturity date,
Right.
if need be. So I am just a lack of information due to his call this afternoon saying he wasn't going to be here, so.
Like board action on that? Give them authority to roll it?
It's up to the board.
I don't think it'd be a bad idea.
Roll
I'll
with
move
the-
that
roll
we
with the
give
money
Mark
market.
authority to roll the money market where he sees fit, basically.
I'll second it.
Okay, everybody understand that motion?
I do not. I want to read it again.
Dam Fund CD number 2 for 208-657-69 matures on the 9th of July. Our meeting is, our meeting date, I'm guessing it would be the 17th. That's that Thursday, third Thursday in July.
I see what the exact motion is.
Is to give-
To roll it over.
Give them authority to roll it over into another fund as he sees fit.
Thank you.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Now, motion on the treasurer's report and payment of the bills.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's report and pay the bills.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now, I don't know if this is pertinent to the discussion. Mark was going to start this discussion. It was basically the ability for the funds in the Lake District to be collected via a mill rate, which actually state statute requires, and then the qualifying projects would be of a special charge. So I think it may be helpful to delay this part of a month so Mark can touch on this, because this is his expertise.
I'd agree.
Okay.
Move it to next.
All right, I think we're pretty comfortable with the next agenda item, authorizing Summit Accounting for the annual RKLD audit. It may be a little more in-depth than in the past, but at least that's the discussion. I don't think we need to specify, unless somebody wants to, the type of audit that Summit is offering or we demand, unless you want to postpone this decision as well for July, which would also work.
You want Mark's input on this, or do you think we could go ahead and move
Well,
forward with it?
he could tell us, he's had some discussion with someone, he could tell us what type of audit that he is looking for
Okay.
as treasurer, so.
Then I would say we postpone it till next meeting when Mark can be here to discuss it.
Okay, is that a motion, Jim?
I make a motion to postpone it till next meeting for Mark to discuss it with us.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 2020 annual meeting. There's been some discussion, and I've received some feedback. Bill is offered to get some information from UW Stevens Point. Is that correct?
Eric Olson, UW Stevens Point.
Maybe, Bill, you could start out with the information that you got from him.
Since there is no history on how it's been done the last few years at hand, I called Eric Olson and I said, what needs to be done? He said, first of all, well, number one, the statutes changed. And with that, there's copies of all of it.
Thank you.
And the biggest thing is on the statute being changed is how the voting takes place and I've got a couple of copies in my wallet. And this is all out on the webpage. I mean, anybody can. I got to leave one for her. Okay. You want to make the next copy? Yeah, soon. So with that, there is that change on it. Along with it, I asked Eric, I said, what needs to be done? You can take and look in the statute, you can look in the book called the People of the Lake, Lake Districts, and I thought I got everybody a book, but maybe not. But chapter 5, it explains it. But with that, I took the liberty, since we couldn't find it, and that's what my open record request was for. I asked Rock County, Jefferson County, and Dane County, and the 5 townships. I wasn't aware Jefferson Township is in their Lake District. This thing goes all the way up to almost to the Jefferson Dam. I wasn't aware of it. But when I got to Jefferson County, they said, yes, they pay late fees also. Not sure why, but they do. So with that, I've got copies of everybody's tax roll with the name of the resident, the address where they live at, the tax roll number, and where they live, or yeah, what property they are. So you got it every way. And I talked to Jenny earlier, and I've got it on my phone where she's able to download it. So she's got an electronic copy of it. That should help you, as a board, decide which way you want to take and determine who is a resident or who's got property in the lake, or in the lake district, I should rephrase that. Along with it, there is a certification letter that Eric sent me.
I have one, Bill.
Pardon?
I have one.
Okay. It may help for the people that live in let's say like her husband and wife got 4 children, and they're 18 years old, they live at home yet, a resident in that property, they wouldn't show up on the tax roll. So by signing this affidavit, if you want to call it, they would be able to prove that they are residents to it. Just another way to validate, and this is going to be up to you, the board, how you want to streamline this and try to make it more efficient than they would have had in the past.
First, Bill, are the list that you presented here, are they Lake District residences, or do they have to be separated out from those lists?
These are all separated out. These are strictly Lake District residents and property owners.
The parcels that are billed?
Correct.
Billed for the operation, okay.
And that's why, and I asked them when they gave it to me, here's your paper copy, but I don't, if you use computers or what, you're going to want a data that you can pull up and say, Bill Burlingame lives in 593 Blackhawk Club Drive. Yeah, he's a Lake District. Something like that. But there's got to be some proof, be able to prove who we actually are at these things.
Okay.
Hopefully that helps. Hopefully gives you some guidance. I think the statute changed, I think maybe came from part of our Lake District and some of the chaos in the voting and counting of the records and when it can be counted and who's eligible and how the recount takes place and all that in there. So, okay?
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah.
So the discussion is surrounded the ability to speed up the registration, landowner elector verification process. Now, I had some thoughts, and I ran it up in front of a few people about a postcard, and that was before the certification showed up. Lake Ripley does this, they just plug their name in to this exact same document. So it has worked. Yes.
Lake Ripley is so much smaller. I believe you got about 4,400 properties or parcels, and that's going to be tough.
Well, yes and no, but you have to verify the landowners and electors that walk through the door and wishing to vote. You have to verify them. So I don't know if you have spoken to me about this, Bill, but you were targeting the people, as you just said, that whose names are not on the landowner list.
Correct.
I think the document would be good for both, for all voters. You would have a consistent document of all people voting, all people registering, intending to vote.
The only question I had on this, and I couldn't get back to him with the contract, is you got on the bottom of this, it basically says the address, sign where you live today. So for the people that, let's say, are out of state, or that don't live on, and but own property in the Lake District, could you just possibly add another line to this and put, your address where you live and then your property address? That's in the Lake District. And I think then, Al, you cover both bases.
Yes, I think by penalty of law, they are declaring an owner or a residence or a representative. So the address where they would print it below that is their identifying address where they live, obviously. Now,
Well, wouldn't you want a parcel number then?
well,
That's a big number.
Can't you?
Person don't have that one.
Yeah.
It's on your tax bill.
that's why this is on the agenda, Mike, is to make some of these decisions. These could certainly, to speed it up by half, be sent out with a newsletter to be handed in as they walk through with some identification, obviously. And then you could have, obviously, blank ones for the electors.
Why not make it a card on a perforated newsletter that you bring the card, tear it off, and that way you can't copy it to bring it in?
Well, we're putting the trust in the voter.
Right.
And the paragraph on the bottom obviously spells this out pretty clear. My intention is to just speed up that registration process. And make it easier for people to get through the line. Well, there's a couple ways we can do this. We can figure out what the best is here this evening, or I can appoint a couple of persons to come up with an idea and present it at July, but it's going to have to be permanent. It's going to have to be, the decision is going to have to be at the July meeting, along with several other things, the agenda for another.
Well, this seems simple enough. When I put with the address, the county, just out of curiosity to see how many voters come from each county.
Yeah, there's
Kind
a
of like
number, there's a
a
number of,
census type deal.
yeah, there's a number of information items. I don't know if it's ever going to be looked at,
Right,
but
but it could be there.
yeah, if you have 400 of these, sure, you want to verify the count, and maybe do a spot check on every 50 or something like that. But you're depending on the honesty of the voter and the threat of state statute being a felony. Yes.
I think also with this, however you determine how you're going to do this, you also at that time, you hand out the ballot.
When this is handed in with some identification, if it's filled out ahead of time, or even if it's filled out at the annual, absolutely, that's when you hand them the ballot.
And in the new procedure, you have to be able to, during the course of that meeting, tell people how many people got ballots, and then how many votes for each candidate.
Right.
And there may be less, but there sure shouldn't be more.
Right. And you could number the ballots. I would hesitate to number the certificate, the ballot, both, because then you're obviously identifying people. It wouldn't be a secret vote anymore. But you could number the ballots for an easy count on the ballot.
And then also to Mike's point, instead of having it by county, have it by township. Because most people know by township.
You think? You'd be amazed, Bill. You'd be amazed.
I was going to say, we have 5 townships that have edged mailing address, and
Yeah,
very few people, especially people that don't live up here, it's just like, oh my goodness.
yeah, they might not know the address of the cabin or whatever. Yes,
So how do you accomplish business interests? Because I hold business interests and personal interests. If I put the same information on these, how will that be looked at?
well, obviously it calls for the name of the organization, and then it requires an affidavit of sorts to declare you as the voter for X and A Industries.
So bring something that states that?
Correct,
this?
correct.
That would be information that anybody wanting business would need to bring at the meeting, otherwise they wouldn't be able to vote without that?
You would, for that organization, you'd have one vote. So whoever you pick to do the voting for X and A Industries would be the person who signs this and marks they are the official representative of that, of X and A.
But no additional affidavit included with this to prove that?
Well-
I just want to make sure, because otherwise you come to the meeting unprepared if you didn't know that.
Right, right. I think, Bill, you can help me out here, but I think statute says they have to have some documentation.
The statute, which is statute 33, and it goes on and on. But what it really is on that is, as a business owner, let's say, or Jim is a business owner, if you lived on that premise, you can't get 2 ballots, as a person. But in the case that you did live there and you had property, let's say you had property on there, you get a ballot yourself, but you can't have that ballot for the business. You have to assign somebody else. Because the first thing people are, the concept is they're handing you 2 ballots. You voted twice, you can't do it. So,
But your wife and your 4 above 18-year-old children count.
yeah, they can. But as a business or something, you just have to have somebody else designated. It can be anybody.
If there's a designated business, I don't know what that would be. I mean, I don't know the impropriety there, but, because if you're the designated voter in a business partners per se, and you collectively agreed to vote a certain way, whoever cast that vote, how would that be different?
Then it would be one of the partners. It cannot be the same person that lives there.
What if every partner owns property in Lake?
They could vote for their parcel, at their parcel.
Right, but we wouldn't get a business vote then?
You would get 1 business vote, but not a business and a personal. Just, it's pretty clear in the statute.
All you have to, you could pick anybody off the street. And give them-
Or somebody that doesn't live on it.
Yeah, and just, here, you're representing this business or this trust fund or whatever, and they can vote. I mean, don't,
I just want to, yeah, I don't
don't
want to
make it more difficult than, what Eric basically told me, he says, looks like you got a question, Jim.
I actually have a question.
Yes, Jenny?
In the state statute, does it say that the district has to verify
Yes,
these the day of?
yes. And that was going to,
Have you given recommendations on how they're verifying, what types of, or is that something up to the board that needs to decide how they're verifying, whether we tax rolls or if it's, what are the options?
well, both, and funny you should ask that. My idea is going back to that postcard that we have discussed in the past. Now, that would only cover the landowners with a parcel in the Lake District. But you could include it in the annual meeting letter or newsletter, could include a certificate for that landowner. If the husband and wife are both on title, they both get a certificate. And a postcard for speeding up check-in to hand in to verify that or certify that they are coming to the annual meeting and intend to vote.
So the certification, when they give that, whoever they're giving it to, that person has to verify they're on the title or however they do it.
Correct.
So where does the responsibility lie?
Right.
The
Now,
people that are checking in people?
yes, now that would only cover the landowners, and the electors will have to verify their names, they have to record their names at check-in to certify who they are and they're eligible to vote. And then they can fill out one of these so everybody that is coming through the door intending to vote has one of these filled
So
out.
either way, no matter what,
Right.
you always have one, and then you switch it for a ballot, and you go through the line, and either way you have, if somebody ends up missing something, the requirement that you have something to say, well, we did receive this.
Right. So,
Is this for speeding up the process?
hopefully, hopefully.
But for accuracy too, and being able to go back and
Accuracy,
say.
but I don't know if it's gonna speed it up.
The portion, oh, sorry, the portion that I see that's a really big issue is that they changed is prohibits ballots being handed out once voting starts. That was at least my view, was that it was very difficult to have a 10, 20-minute time frame, and people didn't want to stay. It seemed like people didn't want to stay for the whole meeting, but since the statutes changed, once voting starts, it can't be a certain time frame.
Bill?
Can I ask one more question? Joe, since you were on the previous board, maybe, how did you do it?
So I didn't have any the problem is I didn't have any involvement in it. And when I walked in, so I remember it being people just set up with computers, and then they split it down by different, names, So I went to the computer that had a B in front of it for Bowers, and they gave me my ballot. They checked me in and gave me my ballot, verified that it was me, but it was because I was going to be sitting up front. I was just, they checked me in very easily and gave me one, so I wasn't in line for that whole portion. But I only checked in as one person. I never checked in for my businesses or any of that stuff. So that's I need to read the statute better and understand it better. But I mean, all my parcels are under different businesses, and according to that, I think I have like 8 votes.
Your businesses have the votes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the purposes of the discussion here this evening is to come up with a list of questions that we can put to council for a legal opinion on the process. So.
This is a random question. So do you have to have property as a business owner to get a vote? Like my business operates, I got that live in town, so that business doesn't matter?
No, you have to physically have a piece of property.
Parcel.
You're kind of unique in what you do, and your business is on the water, you don't get a vote. You're not paying lake district dues.
Sure, okay.
I guess maybe that would be the,
Sure. I mean, just
spell.
Maybe you need a houseboat, Adam.
I agree.
If you want to stand in for one of mine, you can.
Ideas?
The biggest question is how, if there's any requirements on how they have to prove that they are there, especially for, let's just say, I don't know anything from landowner or tenant, but they're not gonna be on the title if they're a tenant, so how do they prove that, whether it's
They're-
their license?
They're an elector because they reside on that property, and that's where they'd fill out one of these. They wouldn't get the postcard that I spoke of. The landowner would get the postcard and the certificate. They would come, walk through the door, John Smith, I live at this address. You give them one of these, and they verify and swear that they are a resident of the Lake District. And you have to put some trust in. And in order to speed this up, you're going to have to put some trust in. They're going to register as well. You know, their name will be recorded. Either.
That was my question, though, is if somebody who cannot prove it by, again, the main thing is the tax bill, what the other options are, or if it's just trust by that because of the voter certification.
Yeah, I think you have to have a certain level of responsibility to the voter, and the ability for them to follow state statute.
I think, Jenny, if I may, I think, anybody that's 18 would have a driver's license, Wisconsin, or some type of ID saying that they live at such and such an address.
But the DMV doesn't require you to change your on there anymore.
Right, there may be exceptions, Bill.
That's the problem. Again, that's why I was curious, because again, with city elections, some elections, you have very specific things that can be used as proof of residency, but when it comes to this, they don't have anything, or it's not required anything. That's the question.
Bert?
If your wife is eligible to vote, her name is on your property, shouldn't there be a line here instead of a whole another piece of paper?
I think we need to keep it individual. Yeah.
So when you send these out, then
You'd get two.
each is going to come.
If there are two names on the tax roll, you would get two, and you get two postcards. I don't know the number of parcels that have two names on it. I could certainly look, but.
So, as we talk about all this stuff, just going through on a computer and checking somebody off is going to probably take care of 90% of them. And the 10% that fall into all these exceptions and the stuff that's a little weird, if we have them fill out this, won't we be able to do a much better job of keeping track of all the weird ones and making sure those are verified? And all the people that are just coming in that own their house and live in their house and want to vote, and own their house and live in Illinois and want to vote for their house they live in at the weekend. I mean, that's going to be 90% of the people, I would think.
Right.
For that other 10%, if we have them fill out the form, I would think that would speed it up a lot, and it would also not make those forms so, clogged up with all the normal ones, and so we can actually look at the ones that are kind of outside the box and make sure we are doing it correctly.
The normal ones would be filled out ahead of time. They could do this at home, walk through the door, verify their identification, get the voting card, and they're in.
Okay.
Now,
So that'll be in a postcard format,
right,
something smaller that, so I don't know, folded up, you're
right.
taking a piece of folded up paper, unraveling them, see who it is. And
Now, there could be issues with mismatches. If you have a landowner and a spouse with each a certificate and each a card, then you have double registration. You have a voter certificate, but you have an ID or a verification of the landowner via that card. So it could get a little thick.
So one of my businesses has 7 parcels. So does that mean they're going to get 7 things sent to them because it has different parcels?
Name is on there.
Yeah, so it's a LLC.
Okay,
So it's a
then
business.
the LLC will get one vote.
Yes, I understand I'll get one vote. I'm saying, are we going to send out 7 of them because there's 7 different parcels and 7 different parcel numbers?
No.
Are we going to know ahead of time not to send that business, all these different cards? My business never even got a newsletter before, just my residents did.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have the records from last year or years past. They're gone. I don't know where they are, they're gone. So they're listed on here, and I'm just quickly trying to find an LLC or a business.
I'm just making sure we don't send out all kinds of extra cards we don't need to send out.
It depends on what the county uses.
Now here,
Yeah.
Because
the
I
hot
would
club
say,
has 2 lines.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that would take a lot of time to go through and sort and verify
Same
which
person,
which.
Yep.
same address, they get 2.
They're on the roll here, Jim, they're listed right next to each other.
Okay, so we'd catch it.
Right. Right.
Is that the same for personal, too? They have farm, well, family farm, even 3 parcels, but it's all one farm with individual parcels, so would that all be with the?
One vote.
One vote.
One vote unless the farm is in a business LLC and they live there,
Right.
then they would get a vote for living there, and then someone else could show up representing the farm, say you could show up and you live in town, you could show up representing the farm and say, I want my business vote. And if both your parents are on the tax roll, then both of them would get a vote, so then it'd be 3 votes that would end up coming off that group of parcels.
That's a crazy idea, but what if you take a tax roll, add subdivision, basically, make it so that people can sign, and the people that are landowners, their name's already on there, I mean, it's going to be paper, but sign, and then for the extra people that don't, they don't need it for the certificate, but the other people will need it if you can't prove that you're on that tax roll.
I think that's the process in the past.
It was not good in the past because whatever spreadsheet they were using did not have all the names. So for example, if a husband's name was first and the wife's name was second, the wife's name was nowhere on it, and it was just, oh, okay, and then continue. So that happens to me and our neighbors because they're first. So that's why I was curious if that would be just something that you have something signing, and I didn't sign anything for receiving a ballot to at least have the elector saying, okay, yep, I signed, I'm verifying I'm who I am, and so on. Idea. Then the postcards, I think are a good idea, but I don't know how many people actually use them, so if it's worth it.
Well, if they leave their postcard at home, you still have this, and they sign this as, and then they register, and then it really doesn't matter, well, they declare if they're a landowner or an elector.
Either way, you have to take that and then
Correct.
correct.
The only thing
I was curious if we did that.
The only thing the postcard would do would be to expedite the registration, because you would park that postcard in that file or in a box, and you would have that name, you would hand them the ballot, and they're gone. By having that, verifying their identification, they're registered. You wouldn't have to record the name, you wouldn't have to look it up on a spreadsheet. It's there.
That's the question though. If they give us that, you don't have to look it up on anything.
At some point in time, you're going to have a record of voters attending.
But the person that's checking in, let's just say there's 4 people, if somebody gives you a voter certificate, then you don't have to check a tax roll?
No, I would think you'd have to check,
Well, that's
you have to
what-
verify it.
No, they're signing that they are landowners.
I mean, because, yeah, that would be great if they're signing and then you just give it to them, you hand them a ballot, you're good to go.
Right.
I was under the impression that the person checking in had to verify, had to use some kind of a form basically verifying, oh, you got on the tax roll.
No, you're putting the responsibility on the voter.
Okay, so I misunderstood that. I thought the person checking in had that responsibility to verify.
No.
Okay.
But,
The only thing now, you may want to highlight that bottom,
oh, absolutely, yeah.
so people realize that that's a felony if you forge this, do not do it.
It should be easy then, you just take, once you're done, all of those are easily scannable, easily
Yes.
public record, and that would be great if it didn't have to verify this to something.
Right. That's what I'm trying to get across, is the pre-verification of landowners that come through that line. They barely have to slow down walking through.
Yeah, that would be.
The only people in line are going to be the electors. And they will fill out one of these at the table, at a separate table.
Yeah, that would eliminate the computer use, it would need the computer use to verify.
Correct.
Here's to this, then, yeah, that would be.
So
very easy.
what I see happening with that, though, is I see husband and wife walk in, they both fill one out, and then the wife is not on the tax bill, and so then therefore she's committed a felony.
No.
And
Well, she hasn't.
if she's not on the tax roll?
She's an eligible voter.
Okay, if she's not on the tax roll, as long as she lives there, she's fine. Okay.
Right.
So, question on what Jim said, so in the scenario where you're leasing land or any of those items, so we have a holding company, holds the property, we have a business that rents from the holding company, that's technically two votes if it's two different people. One for the renter business, one for the holding company business. Am I wrong in that?
No, that's what I was saying. I think I
That
have
would
8
mean
votes.
If you're leasing a piece of property, say for hunting or whatever else, the leasee would have a vote for that particular parcel. So if you were leasing a 10-acre pond to hunt, and the landowner would still have their vote for the remaining land, and the pond owner, the pond leasee would have that vote. That seems, we're going to, 4,000 parcels just turned into.
Don't that come back to who's paying the district?
Rick, if I may, I'll be more than happy to call Eric Olson on that, but it's a renter. My wife owns the house next to us. The renter gets the vote, even though my wife owns the house. But she also owns 2 other pieces of property her name's on, so she only gets 1 vote. That renter gets 1 vote.
Sure.
Okay, so that's that. Now, on the leasing of hunting land and that, like I say, you can call Eric Olson or somebody can and get a clarification on that, but if somebody that's renting hunting land is not going to get a vote.
For clarification, I'll put that down and we'll get some counsel on
That's
that.
just my,
Yeah, I mean, because
What's a good point?
Well,
same as the business rent.
yeah, the business, so one of my businesses owns the land. Another one of my businesses rents that land. So do I get a business vote for each one? And I just appoint a person?
That's what we're going to ask. That's what we're going to find out.
that's a good one to ask you, to get clarification.
And those are businesses. That's not just another person coming out to hunt on the land that rents the land that way. This is 2 registered businesses.
This entity, what Rick's saying there.
I'm guessing it's going to be based on residency
Yeah.
versus, if you have an organization, that's an organization. So, but we will find out. Good question.
I think we're trying to give, to Rick, my impression after reading the statute, and I think please everybody take time to read it, that is we're trying to be fair to the business to get a vote, on it. But, and then also, if you live in the area, to get that individual an opportunity to vote, 1 vote. That's no different than when you have multiple, some people own 20 parcels.
Okay, to move this along, I'm going to suggest that some authorization given to develop the things that we've discussed here this evening and bring it back on the 17th. It'll still give us, we'll have to make that decision. We'll have to have the ability to have these things printed. So we'll need that decision, that solid decision on the 17th. And we'll get, and if anybody,
What's the date on the annual?
15th of August, if they let us in. Otherwise, we've got to have it out at your shop.
Like that.
So, any other comments? And I just assume that I'll take that responsibility of bringing that document forward, documents. You can vote on it if you want to. You can motion, you can move it, because it's an action item. However you want to do it.
make a motion to pen this till next meeting and given Al permission to bring the documents that he sees fit for this.
Okay, just understand, I'm going to be leaning on Jenny quite a bit here, so.
Well, I'll second it then.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Dam report. Allow me to get my paperwork. A letter dated June the 3rd, 2020, several emails actually. We have been awarded, we're not awarded the grant, we're awarded the exact language here. Your grant application is grant eligible and has been placed on the priority funding list. So that makes us eligible with the steps that I'll talk about here in a second. That makes us eligible for a project that exceeds $1.2 million for $400 in grant funding.
400,000, right?
What?
Not 400. Yeah.
400,000. 400K.
Yeah.
And if it was 400, we'd tell them to keep it. Okay. And I received today from Uriah Monday, the water, what is he, water management engineer, a timeline, and you all have it in front of you, of things that need to be completed. Some are already completed for the grant. And the meeting is set up, or going to be set up for the coming week between myself, Jeff Anderson from Mead and Hunt, and Uriah to proceed with the next steps. The information is there, obviously. You can read it as well as I can dictate it. Any questions? Per state administrative code, you have 6 months from the time the DNR notified us to make the priority funding list. So this means you have until December the 10th to make that application. So it has to be bid by December 10th.
Now, this money's not paid until the project's completed then, right?
That's correct, yes.
We pay for it, then we get reimbursed.
Any discussion on the gate project itself? Maybe just an update. I have been taking a large air compressor. How many CFM would you guess that is, Mike? My big air
At least
compressor.
500, I'm sure.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
To the dam occasionally, and with Kim Boltham's help, we were blowing out the trash racks, and it's just Bert was there for the last one, and Bert, maybe you could comment on that process.
Really, you watch them clean them
Yeah, you're able to blow the debris that's stuck on the leaf, mostly leaves and sticks and carp and whatever that are deep on the trash racks that plug the flow. And you blow that up and you float them and they float out around the gate. And
I would imagine that he didn't blow run air in there any longer than half an hour.
yeah.
And you had all the whole distance
Mm-hmm.
going out with a rate. That don't do a whole lot at all.
So my air compressor's not a permanent solution.
Thanks for doing that, Al.
It's not a permanent solution, so, but it does help
Hopefully,
it.
new gates and bigger trash racks will
Right.
help.
Right. Okay, landing and lake access. Jim and Jim?
We have a meeting with, is it Chris?
Chris James.
Chris James from Dane County Parks. Jim and myself are meeting with him on Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock to see where we go from here.
Okay.
So I don't know, if you're welcome to come.
If I can, I will. And speaking of, if anybody else wants to come, let me know, because I'll have to, in 24 hours ahead of time, I'll have to give notice of a quorum, possible quorum. So if anybody else wants to attend that. Jim is an architect for Dane County Parks. He's bringing along his boss, and I forget his boss's name. I didn't print that email out either.
I couldn't get it printed, so. See if it comes up here.
Is the town of Albion going to be along too, or?
Yes, I'm going to.
It'll be at the Albion Township.
We're meeting at the Albion Town Hall and Darren. Yeah.
Questions on that meeting? Just let me know ahead of time.
Okay.
If we're going to have, if there's going to be one more person, I might show, just ask some questions, but. All right. I've asked Bill to give a presentation on the needs and the partners and a study that the DNR did on landings and parking within the district.
The clerk likes me.
You know, they sell printers every day.
Oh, self for him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh. Thanks. I got it.
I only got the stapled one. Bill, I only got the stapled one. You only give me this one.
I'm sorry.
I only got the bottom one.
You get the
Oh, you
map.
didn't get this?
Nope, or the other one.
You didn't get this? Oh, my apologies.
And I didn't get the bottom one.
Thank you.
Now we're going to do a little show. I got it on the agenda. How this all came about is a board member in Rock-Koshkonong Township did a boat landing called Highway 26, Grayler Road. It's under 26. About the last 3 or 4 years, we've been trying to do a balancing act with the landing and the fishermen and the boaters. Trying to figure out how we could support it as a township. DNR's got, I believe, 17 parking spaces down there. And we tried this side of the road, that side, shut this off, do this. You're gonna go here, you're gonna go there. If we got one sign down there, we got 30 signs down there. And Jefferson County finally got a little tired of writing tickets for $147 a piece. People would park right in front of a no parking sign. We had a 15-minute stage your boat after you're done. Just park right in it, and then go out and fish. So people got tired of it, the residents got tired, just petitioned to the township, said, that's enough, we're done. As I've said in the past, sometimes I'm official, just like you almost every day, we can be some of the most message people, I'm trying to think of a polite word.
When it's not your home, like most of these people
Yeah.
come from out of state in the spring,
Yeah.
they don't treat it like their
Yeah.
home.
There's garbage left all over, they're urinating in front of people, kids are walking down the driveways, and somebody's standing in the driveway urinating, and the parents just leave it. Tearing up ditches, garbage. I was down there one day, and the sheriff was writing 2 tickets, bolt pulls out, goes over to 15 minutes, and he drives away. And I looked down the ways and said, oh, hopefully I did bag me or something, walk down, it's all garbage. He just leaves it there. So anyway, long story short, residents shut it down. We shut it down. We lost approximately 50, 60 parking spaces. And we had a few fishermen upset, a few out-of-state people upset, but you know, we tried everything for 3.5 years, and there was no good solution. So along with that, though, there was one property owner, if anybody's familiar with that landing down there, there's an old landing that you gotta go through a gate. And there's a 700-foot easement that the property owner adjacent owns. He wants to flip-flop land with the DNR and say, here, I'll give you this land, you give me some way in the back off of his property, and you guys can develop this landing. I took it up to, and I might have the terminology wrong on this, there's different departments in the DNR, and one of them is for land acquisition. And I took it up to that, I don't know if it's director or not, but it's being discussed. They could fix the road, that landing down, the old landing would be good for maybe 12, 14-foot boats, little runabouts, it wouldn't be good for big ones. Or they could fill the land in with gravel, you can do that with wetland, and develop a bigger parking lot. But again, talking with different people in the DNR, especially fish management, it sounds like they really don't want any more fishermen on that part of the river in the spring. They're taking quite a supply of fish on there, maybe. It's very...
There'll be a fine balance now with the rule change.
Yeah, with the 18-inch, and they hoped that was going to be part of it. So anyway, with all that, and then with the Bingham Landing, I said to the DNR, I said, don't you guys do studies on bodies of water and say how many boat landings should be on a body of water? And they said, yeah. They got me to another guy, I think his name was Lance, and they did a study. And in this information here you got, it shows a map of where they're taking the land, or they're looking at. And that's all the way from up the Bark River, I think, to Burton Village, which I wasn't really aware of, all the way down to Newville Pass, down past, Indian Ford Dam almost on it, if you just kind of look at this. And with that, I said, well, then how many landings should there be? And that's where the study came in, and they came back with, and said there's adequate number of landings on the lake with a minimum number of parking that is required by the study. And Jim, I looked at yours, and I said, I think you're on here for 5. He said they talked to you personally. And I just, I didn't argue, dispute it with them, but I thought, that's odd. Because, I know your situation down there, and I didn't think you really had 5, parking spaces.
I would say I have 5 parking spaces, but again, my landing's only open Monday through Thursday.
Right.
And they didn't talk to me because I'm pretty passionate about my thoughts on the boat landings, and I would remember that conversation.
Yeah, I would have thought, but there's no sense, I'm not going to get into argument. The other thing is, I looked at it, just where I live alone, and I'm going to make a guesstimation, there's got to be 10, 12 private boat landings out there. You folks have got one out there that, they're not counting. I was out fishing on Kosh yesterday, and I just started looking around. T-Bow's got a bunch of them. They're not public, but they're boat landings. So they didn't count those in here, but there's quite a few boat landings on the lake that residents use. Across from Lakeview, I think there's a couple over there I've seen. They're down in the hall, just, driving around. I'm not agreeing with this. I'm not disagreeing with this. This is just flat information on how many landings there are and what the DNR says, that's, you know, adequate or not. So you take it for what it's kind of worth. And I have not heard back from the DNR, will they make it a land spot? You know, I was hoping that would pick up another, you know, maybe 30, 40 parking stalls.
So the amount of that land there in the spring, when it's the busiest up there, is underwater probably 60% of the time. So what would they be elevating all of that? The amount of,
Yeah.
the amount of fill that would take astronomical.
Sure. I'm not
I'm
disagreeing.
just curious of what
No,
they're.
no, you're 100%, but the DNR has the capability to do that. You know, I think, please don't quote me on this, but I believe in a wetland or floodplain, they will give you permits to put gravel. You can't put fill in, but you can put limestone. So, I mean, you know, it would be their property, you know, let the state do what they want, if they really want to help the fishery or, you know, the sportsmen. But in our case, the township just said, no, let's, you know, we close it down. And I got to actually, too, tell you that to the sheriff's department in Jefferson County, they would come call me, I would go down, and they say, you know, the sign just isn't quite maybe right, it's legal, but as a fisherman, you may not know it. We give a warning. And we always said yes. I was even there when they would call somebody on the lake or the river. I didn't know if police had an opportunity where you get the cell phone, but they do. And they would call somebody out of the river and say, will you please get in here and move your vehicle, or it's 147 now. So I think they went out of the way to try and, you know, to correct the situation also, to make it right.
Any questions for Bill?
Yes, sir.
I don't have any questions.
That's all I got. Hope that helps.
Okay. Thank you, Bill, for doing that. Lake District Management. We have Adam Walton here tonight. He's going to, Adam, exactly what are you going to talk about? You're going to talk about the water conditions underneath the railroad bridge?
Yeah, I think Brian wanted to say something about the dam first.
On that same topic?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to, I'm not speaking for the boat patrol. I'd like to point out that natural resources 1.90, 1.91, 330.77, and the public trust doctrine all state that they cannot block those parking spots on the public road, even though the township owns it. Adjacent, it's from the town of Lynn appellate case from 1995, and if you want to read through that, it clearly states that they can't, parking adjacent, to me is arbitrary, capricious at best. And if for that 2-mile stretch or 1.5 mile stretch around Stringer Road there, that alone would restrict, or potentially could hold, a truck and a trailer equivalent of 50 feet, about 250 extra parking spots. The DNR is not trying to restrict people from fishing. It's our waters, all of us. It's open to anybody, whether they're handicapped, and there are no handicap stalls. It doesn't matter whether they're handicapped, or they're kayaking, or they want to go out fishing on the shore. If I don't take my kids down there, I got lots of complaints over the weekend, or the past couple weekends, 45-minute waits to get down there. They get down there, and then there's no parking spots. And so they waited in line. And I can tell you that if I want to take my kids out there, I'd be extremely disappointed as a owner of that waterway, as we all are. It's hard to get my kids to go out, and when they do, they don't want to wait that long, and they don't want to go up to the next program. The water's supposed to be accessible, and the township's job is to keep that accessible. And DNR's job, public trust doctrine, and it's tested in, I forget the name of the court case. And they're tested the townships on that, and DNR has the right to go in and trumpet the townships can't challenge it. So I argue that the Lake District has a vested interest in that, signs that went up on East Allendale Road for the 8/10 of a mile of that road there, half mile or so. That would provide an extra 30 spaces, and I know, and that's, when I say 250 and 30, that's strictly taking the number of feet, using Google Earth, measuring it out, and excluding about 2,000 feet, everything in front of anybody's house, or 130, 150 feet from the driveway, on either side of the driveway, in either direction, which I think would be reasonable. The state owns all of the property along 26 up to the road line. I would argue that it's not hurting anybody to park on at least the 26 side, the inside road. And that's taking 60 feet from the apex to the corner out on each intersection and completely blocking off no parking on the riverside of Schwimmer as it wraps around the bridge.
Your name again, sir?
Ryan Peterson.
Okay, did you get that, Jenny? Thank you. Okay. You want to comment?
I would suggest then get a lawyer and sue the township, because I think you'll lose, because it's already been checked with the DNR, the state, and who owns 26? 26 right away does not come down the way you think it does. It's all been validated and checked out. But you feel free to do it, please
There's
do
no
it.
property owners on that side of the road.
I'm sorry?
There's no property owners on that side of the road.
There's townships.
And I'd argue there's 3 groups that spoke up about picking up trash. I've never seen trash out there, but I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I spend a lot of time out there. Huh?
Yeah, there's a lot.
I got pictures all kinds. But anyway, let's see, you're more than welcome, please do it. If you want to bring it to court, take it to court with us.
My argument would be there's a balance to be able to use the waterway.
Okay, thank you.
One of the biggest issues that's happened right now because of all these boating is COVID-19. Dale at Rock River Marina told me that he is fixing boats that haven't been used for 10 years because people have nothing to do. But let's get that boat out, let's go boating, because we're out in the free air, we're not sitting next to everybody and stuff like that. He says they can't even keep up. They can't get used parts anymore for boat engines because everyone seems to want to go boating now. And maybe this is just something that happened and this is going to normalize itself and there'll be 5 boats in the future, a couple of years from now instead of 30. And because I've noticed so many old pontoons out there now and stuff like that that haven't been around for, yeah, it's packed everywhere.
Packed kayaks, going down, as groups. And I just think it's, what a shame to be able to block people from being able to use it. There's every subdivision by statute has to have a 60-foot parcel that's left open for public access, not private, not like only the people in the subdivision, but the public. So I could take a kayak and walk across that piece of property that everyone kind of calls private and throw it in the water.
On the Allendale Road situation, I don't think anybody's opposed to parking along the road, just when they don't know how to park. And then they block traffic, because I happen to live on Allendale Road. It's a damn nightmare because nobody manages it. So if the DNR wants to do this, put some people down there to manage it. Same thing out in Bingham. They call the cops, they're fighting, they're beating each other up because nobody managing parking.
Okay. Adam, you're up.
My name's Adam Walton. I got my here in town. I had the privilege to grow up on the system, grew up on the Rock River. I've been fishing Koshkonong with my grandpa since I was probably 5 years old. And love the system. And Jim Jelnick reached out to me and said, hey, you guys are looking at doing something with the railroad as far as the channels and whatnot under the bridge, or potentially looking at improving that. I know it's a pretty dangerous area. It's not marked very well at all, and to no one's fault. I think it's something that's just been overlooked. So I did my best. I went down, I got a bunch of pictures. I got a lot of underwater pictures with the mega side imaging, so they're pretty crystal clear. You can see exactly what's under the channels that I could get through. I did this a few weeks back when the water was a little bit higher. You won't be able to get through one of the channels that I got pictures on at this point, but this is what I got. So just doing a quick overview of the river bridge itself, how the channel's laid out for anybody who's not quite familiar with all of that. The current bridge and the channel markings that are there, which I'm pretty sure were spray painted back in 1992 when we were in high school, and they're still there. Underwater images that I mentioned before. So here is a layout. So upstream, so excuse me, Ellendale Road landing up this way. So if you're coming in, I don't know, it's marked, I just marked it by the spray paint. That's why their number's there. So this is channel 1 that's spray painted, channel 2. Channel 3 is not spray painted, I just put that one there. So you'll notice the pylons there. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 channels, right? We'll kind of refer back to this picture a bit. So the two left side channels, if you're approaching from upstream, so we're going downriver here, these are impassable under normal conditions. Actually, when I went by here with high water, they're pretty much impassable. There's some rock boulders in here that will take out a lower unit in a heartbeat. This will be the next channel, so left of channel 2, if you're approaching from upstream. This is impassable in low conditions. So this is one that I was able to get through it at the point when I did this a few weeks ago, but now I have a doubt you'll be able to get through there. So here's channel 2, that's that spray paint marker I was talking about. Don't mind my Parkinson's here, right? So right there, and then channel 3 we just looked at, and then channel 1, which is going to be next. So this is one of the main channels that a lot of boaters will use. And then here's channel 1, the other main channel. You notice here too, they also have these 2 arrows spray painted up here. So these are the markings of the Rock-Koshkonong Rail Bridge channels. If you're not familiar with this locally, you'd have no idea what any of it means. Next to that, there's channel 1 again, passable one, and then you have 2 more impassable channels. There are danger buoys out here, and I applaud whoever put those out there, but there's no rhyme or reason to like where they're at. They're just kind of floating in the vicinity of the bridge, and I don't know if that was the intention or it's not like a specific thing that they're marking at that point. It's just maybe marking that there's a bridge right here, be careful. There's no actual buoy channel markers. So here's some underwater pictures. So this first one is the boat approaching just like the arrow through channel 1. Try to explain this the best I can. So here's the boat going in motion, so it's going downriver. So upstream is here. As you come through here, the black right there, so what we're doing is we're looking, this is side imaging. You're looking at a 3D picture on a flat screen. So if you were to kind of imagine that line that comes straight off the back of the boat is where my fingers meet, and the black is the tops of my hands, and then the gray blue is my arms. This is what you're looking at, but in reality it's actually this. So that black is an up and down below the boat, and then everything else is off to the side, and then it's just laid out on a flat screen so it looks like this. So black is depth, so through that channel is about 5.4 feet. Now mind you, this water was higher too at this time. And then these are the pylons, the ridge pylons. Next to those ridge pylons, I'll go to the next picture here, I labeled some stuff for you. The concrete ones are all black. You have some rock in here, and then these are around here, these are the old, they're almost like telephone poles, the old wooden pylons that are all encased around each one of these concrete pylons. So where you see the concrete above the water, there's a lot more underneath that water that sticks out farther. That's just below the surface. We also have some man-made debris here. It looks like a pier, like a section of a pier that had sunk down and it's stuck right there, but it's obviously got some kind of a structure to it that's not just natural. And then out here you have a lot of rock and gravel before the bridge, and then right behind it downstream you have these sandy mud reserves behind each pylon. So it kind of comes up a little bit of a hump behind each pylon. So this is channel 1. And this is channel 1 just downstream, so there's that man-made object you saw, the wood pylon. And then notice the rock kind of goes away. Here's that sand hump. Here's the other sand hump, so a little shallower. And then you have not as much rocky gravel. It's a little bit more, more sandy clay with some rock. Channel 2, so I did a U-turn with the boat, and now going back up underneath the bridge, heading this way. So here is that downstream version. So again, we got sand and mud there. You have the concrete pylon above water, and then below water you have all the old wood pylons and some debris here too. And then a lot of more rock and gravel as you get up here. And this one is 5.2 feet, so 0.2 feet difference between channels 2 and 1. So channel 2 is just a touch deeper. I'm not answering any questions. Yes, sir.
5.2 off the bottom of your boat, so it was probably 7 feet deep at that time,
No,
and 5 feet at normal conditions?
No, I got a foot at that.
So a foot, so...
Transducer's mounted pretty high.
So it was probably 6.2 feet deep of water.
Yeah.
And so under normal conditions, it's going to be 3.5, 4 feet?
Right.
Okay.
Did the U-turn again and then came down through channel 3. Now this was the channel that I mentioned that is normally impassable. Tried to give it a shot. Trimmed the motor all the way up and was able to get through there barely. So it's 5.7 feet, but that's reading right there. So right here when I went through, that was like 2.2. And if my motor would have been down and not trimmed, that would have took it out right there. That's all rock. Solid rock. This is downstream of channel 3, so it does get quite, back to an average depth of channels 1 and 2, but that big hump of rock right there prevents that from being passable. And then you got a lot of sand on the backside of here too. And then this is rock and gravel. Tried to run parallel, the current was pushing me. Tried to run parallel to the bridge, so here's the bridge, here's upstream. Wasn't able to get some really great shots, but this is the channels that we can't pass through. I wanted to try to see how far in I could shoot underneath them, and this is what we're looking at. So there's that pylon, here's the other pylon down here. You can see there's rock piles and gravel right away. It's up pretty high.
That's big spot on the right there, so towards that rock?
That right there?
Yeah.
It is big rock, yep. Walleyes sit right there too, shoots.
Okay. Don't tell Swanee.
That's the only fishing tip of the day. Well, that whole area is just rock and rock gravel. So just a few things, it's a pretty dangerous area. I know back when I was on Edgerton Fire, we had a few incidents down there. I don't know more recently, has there been any?
Not really, no.
I remember a pontoon crashed into one of those pylons.
Yeah.
That was
Couple boats.
bad news. I think we're really lucky that that's not in a really heavily traveled section of the river, because there'd be a lot more accidents. The channels are poorly marked at best with spray paint from whoever knows who did that years ago. I'm glad to see there's at least some buoys down there, but there definitely could be some improvement. And I'm glad you guys are looking into that. I don't know what scale it's gonna take to move all that rock. There's a lot down there, but that's what I got.
That's a picture of how well you can see the bridge at night too. There's no lights on it. At night, that's what you're looking at. There's nothing, there's no way to see that bridge at
I
night.
think a couple of buoys have,
The danger lights have buoys on
Yeah,
it.
that was something Jim, I believe, got.
We'd gotten 6 of them, and the thought was is Pearl would put each one in one of the 6 bad holes, and the 2 good spots would stay without a buoy in the.
Oh, thanks, Adam. We
Yeah, thanks,
appreciate
Adam.
it. That was awesome.
Since you're on the railroad board, Al, what do we have to do to put lights on them abutments?
Wisconsin Southern has offered to install lighted markings for those piers. Obviously, they aren't going to buy them, but they will install them.
Is there electricity there, or is it
I
solar?
would guess you'd have to go solar.
The underground, we'll plug it into your house.
Just run an extension cord from your house, Jim.
Yes, Adam?
I do have a question, and I'm guessing you guys looked into all this when you were working on the Indianport Dam, but being a federal waterway, is there options for buoys that you could go a different route to get money for, or even appoint organization that might come out and mark this system better?
I always thought that too, Adam, that the government or the railroad should be involved for his bridge, because you go to Lake Wabeesa on the railroad tracks up there and the waterway between Wabeesa and Monona there, that bridge is marked like crazy.
Same owner.
How come they have it marked there? Who did that?
Well, it's up to the Lake District or whatever, but I'm saying the railroad will install any markings you want to put on that bridge,
I just wonder why they're not liable to pay for them.
because they don't travel in the water.
I guess that was.
Well, they put their bridge abutments in the water though,
What was that, Adam?
right?
Before
That'd be my
40,000
argument.
pontoon.
Yeah.
Buoys?
As navigational aids, I don't know if that program is still in effect, but 8, 10 years ago, there was a reimbursement of, I think, 50%.
Who's that through, Ryan?
It's a 50 or something like that. It was a good chunk of money. You would buy it, then you would submit it, and then.
I'll look into that.
Okay.
There's one person that handles that too.
And just some information, I did ask, let me back up a minute here. The bridge itself is owned by the 10-County Rail Transit Commission, which Rock County is a member of, as is Jefferson County, as is Dane County. The railroad is responsible for the upkeep of that bridge. Any major structural repair, the railroad is eligible for granting through the freight rail protection program. And that bridge was updated, I don't know if you recall the derailment there years ago on that curve to the north of the river. The track from Milton to Edgerton, Milton to Monroe, going through here was updated with a continuous welded rail for about $7.2 million. And they updated the bridge at that time, which was a maintenance issue. So the system has a higher speed limit now than it ever had before. So the railroad is responsible for that bridge. They aren't responsible, they're responsible to keep the bridge out of the water, not whatever passes underneath it. It's same as a railroad bridge over a highway. Each time a highway comes to a railroad bridge, they don't knock on the railroad's door and say, you got to fix the bridge, because we're going underneath your railroad. The railroad bridge is responsible for the bridge staying out of the water. So with that said, I had approached the railroad about a different structural system on one of the piers that would allow taller boats to get through under normal water. And the response was, sure, we can do that. It'll cost $1 million for one pier, one span. So I think if we get it marked correctly, and Mike has volunteered to lead that charge, why we can find those lighted markings and they will install them. So,
I would think they have solar lights now, panels that might work.
questions?
Like put up like channel 1, channel 2 extra signs instead of spray painted arrows and then like do not enter, you know, like the impassable channel.
Well, the right way to do it is a red and green buoy,
You're right, but
or a center channel marker buoy.
red and green buoy is, I think,
Yeah.
red and green buoys only matter to people that understand red and green buoys, which is 2% of the boating population.
So what I know on the Fox, and I know like down in Rockford on the river, on the Rock River down there, they have red and green lights on the bridge, so it's a light and it's a marker saying.
You want to give you something that has, at night, perception of where the bridge level's at.
Well, and I agree with the light, but I personally think to keep it simple for most boaters, you need channel 1, channel 2.
And I've seen that on bridges too before.
I don't ever, Rick, you probably remember this too, I don't remember it ever being a slow no wake through there for years. It was just go as fast as you want. But there was a lot less boaters back then too.
And the pontoon boats weren't doing 55.
Right, yeah. Right.
You get a pontoon out
Oh, yeah.
Not with the bimini up.
Yes.
Is that experience speaking?
No, that's me watching.
Anything else on railroad bridges? All right, if you have ideas, give Mike a call. Next is the Town of Sumner road damage. We have John Donner from the chair of the Town of Sumner. John.
Hi, thanks for putting me on the agenda. First off, I'm not coming here to try to reinvent the wheel of what happened to the roads, start all over on it. It is what it is. It was unfortunate. We're past it. What I'm looking for is some clarification. We had to give a check to the board for lawyer fees. I think it was like $1,500. Past chairman, he was waving it around at the meeting, said he was going to frame it, said he wasn't going to cash it, he was going to give it back to the township. And it got cashed. And so we were looking if that was the true intent, that the board was going to cash it all along, or they told a bunch of people if they weren't, they were just going to give it back to us as a kind of a, good gesture. And I was just trying to, if there's some way we can get the $1,500 check back, we appreciate it. We'll put it towards fixing our roads. Everybody's driven out there, you know how crappy they are. If not, I understand, we lost the case. I mean, Frank passed away in the middle of it, and it was just a whole unfortunate mess that if probably some different people were sitting in, maybe different chairs and stuff, or we had different people involved. If I wasn't around because I was the chairman that was working on state at the time, it probably wouldn't have got as big a mess as it did. But it is done, it's over, no hard feelings. But if we could, there's a possibility that we could, my clerk says that the check got cashed. If we had wanted to verify it to make sure, we can do that. But the possibility that, the true intent of the board's gonna give the $1,500 back to us, we could sure you.
When was this, John?
I would honestly say it's probably, this whole thing started probably, Jim, 6-8 years ago?
Yeah.
What, wasn't it in the
It was for the
paper?
for the project that we did out on the lake.
It was a dredge.
Yeah.
The dredge
I
project
remember
where
that.
we reinforced the shoreline of Mud Lake. That was the big thing.
Wasn't it posted in the paper that the Lake District paid you back?
That's just, yeah, and we never, we never did, they never did. I mean, we can verify, the clerk said we can verify that the check got cashed, which I wouldn't expect you guys to go write a check without that verification, but, we can verify it, that it did get cashed, and, that was the true intent, and there was, some people brought it up to me about, hey, how come
I do remember the picture in the paper saying they paid it back, and it was
Yeah.
a long time
And that
ago.
was my understanding, it was going to get paid back, so,
I'd make a motion that
well,
I would
Verify
like to
it.
see that verification.
verify it, and if it was verifiable, that it give the town of Sumner back their $1,500.
and I'll second it.
Discussion. Could you get that verification?
If you go back and look in the meeting minutes, or if you go back and discuss it with the chairman back at the time, that check was cashed. I agree, Mr. Donor, very much. But I also believe those dollars were used and given to the safety patrol.
Okay. Do you remember the date, Steve?
No, you'd have to go back in the meeting minutes. Unfortunately, Frank's passed, gosh, 7, 8 years ago, right? Right. It's been a while.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. So if you could get that verification, I would certainly like to see that. But we have a motion and a second on the floor to repay the town of Sumner the $1,500. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Are there any resolutions for tonight's meeting? Any resolutions? Public comment? Justin?
Justin Schultz, N2 07 Potawatomi Trail. I'm just talking to Bill's point about his public records request and there not being any records. I did sign a physical affidavit of residence last year, so there should be at least one physical record of a voter. And the other thing, as far as who's eligible to vote, I have to have council come up with a list of.
Yeah, I have a list started of questions. Anything else, Justin?
No.
Any other public comment?
Well, today we received a DNR.
Oh, that's right. How about let's do it under the comments from the
Okay,
commissioners.
sure.
Any other public comment? Okay, Mike?
The DNR sent us a stay on the 2.5 inches. And Jenny, are you going to put this on the website, possibly? It has all their study work done. They weren't, it kind of explains, due to the high water, the investigation showed severe adverse impacts to wetlands. They're not saying they're not going to give it. They just need a little more time to do some study of this information. But all the information they did identify things with is posted with this letter. So if you want to read through it, it'll be on the website, and it's got some photos and graphs and stuff about what it is. But they are not saying that they're not going to give it to us, but at this time, because the water's still high, they can't get at some of the areas that they need to. So.
Okay, any
And
other?
the water's still 1.5 higher, or 776 anyways, right, so.
Any other comments by commissioners?
I'll actually follow up on Bill's, talking about the parking and following up with Ryan. I get it, it's frustrating. My boat's on a trailer, and for me to put my own personal boat in, unless I'm out there at 4 a.m., 16 parking stalls are booked, and it pisses me off. It's very frustrating to even put my own boat in, and it's getting worse. You're sitting waiting 45 minutes to an hour. I send my wife down to see if there's a stall down there to even try to go put a boat in. You go over here to Newville or anywhere else, and it's 45 minutes to an hour wait, and then not being able to park, so. Back both of them up, that's frustrating.
Adam?
I honestly think that parking is a minor thing here. All the boat launches on this lake, even though there's plenty, suck. There's single access. You have one person that comes down there on Memorial Day weekend and it's about getting boats in and out in general. The single stall process doesn't work. You look at places like the Fox River, they got 4 lanes, you have 2 for taking out, 2 for putting in. They're marked. You don't do one or the other if you're not coming in or out. It's a pretty flawless system, but here on this system, that's just not the way it is. And of course, because it costs a lot of money. And I honestly think parking is just a small fraction here. If you don't fix the number of boats that can come in and out parking at the end, it's the delay of the landing.
And I gotta add, and I know it's not necessarily open discussion, but my intentions is not to challenge Bill. I mean, it really is.
And we didn't take it that way.
You know,
I'm sorry.
I thought twice. I really don't know. I don't own property in the village. You know, I'm in your area. I use the water, and I hear it, and I speak for. I guess my intention is to having the bigger picture. It brings in a lot of money to the area. It makes people happy to want to buy property here. I really think that there's a solution. It may not be the one that is parking may not be immediate, but it might tie us a little more and work with the DNR. The DNR really holds the key on 2 different landings, major landings that we're talking about here. And
Okay. Item 13.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I was going to
Oh,
chime in there as well.
sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Just to go back on boat landings and everything like that, and Mr. Donor, I greatly appreciate you coming tonight, but I really wish our town board chairman around this lake would work for economic development, because we need to be looking at more boat landings to support the businesses, to bring more tax dollars to all the townships. So, I mean, he's admitted the roads are in horrible shape. I think we all know that. He's not telling us anything new. But let's do things to improve this lake, make it accessible for people that want to come up for a day of boating on Lake Koshkonong, enjoy the lake, spend money, bring tax dollars, help employment, and make everything better for everyone.
Okay, thank you, Steve. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Who was the second?
I made the motion.
I'll second.
Seconded by Jim Bowers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. Yes, yes.
Not too many. I woke up one